ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शंकरानंद नमः श्री शंकरानंद गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलास महामोह सविलास महामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। ब्रह्मानंदो वासना च प्रतिबिंब इति त्रयम् अंतरेण जगत्यस्मिन् आनंदो नास्ति कश्चन. So said in the verse 87 that there are only three kinds of ananda: brahmananda, vasanananda and vishayananda. Other than these three, there is no other ananda in this world. In the verse 88 it was said, tatha cha vishayanando vasanananda ityam आनंदो जन इत्यमु आनंदो जनयन्नास्ते ब्रह्मानंद स्वयं ब्रह्म. So the content of every ananda or happiness is indeed brahmananda alone, because Brahma is of the nature of ananda, and that alone gets reflected as vishayananda, meaning when we experience a sense object, and the word sense object includes everything that I confront. Anything that when we objectified is called Vishaya, or the sense object here. Not only objects of the senses, but objects of emotion, or object of intellect, or object of ego, whatever, all of these fall in the category of object. Anything that is objectified. And whenever I get happiness as a result of experiencing of something that is conducive or desirable, then the happiness that is experienced is called Vishayananda. It is Brahmananda indeed, but then reflected in their thought. So when I confront something that makes me happy, then there is a state of happiness in my mind, and Brahmananda reflected in that state of mind is called Vishayananda, meaning Ananda generated from Vishaya. Whereas in the state of tranquility of the mind, which is not generated from any sense object, the Ananda, that is the same Brahmananda, is reflected in that state of mind, which is called Vasanananda. And not the reflected Ananda, but Ananda itself, which is the self, is called Brahmananda. This is how. So the content or essence of all Ananda, which is the self and which is self-effulgent, is Brahmananda. That alone gets reflected and is called Vishayananda and Vasanananda. Then it was said in the verse 89, Shrutyuktyamabhutibhyah svaprakasha chidatmake Brahmanande suptikale siddhe satyanyadashranu. That thus in the discussion so far by Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Shruti meaning Upanishad here, such as Kaivalya Upanishad, which says how a jiva in the state of deep sleep, when the whole personality is merged into ignorance, then how in the state of deep sleep the jiva becomes of the nature of happiness, and therefore one experiences that Brahmananda in the state of deep sleep. That we experience Ananda in this deep sleep is also evident from the statement of a person who wakes up from the deep sleep and says, I slept happily. And that's a statement which reflects a memory. And that reveals that in the state of deep sleep there must have been an experience of Ananda. So Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava, by all these three, the author has shown how there obtains Brahmananda in the state of deep sleep. That is Desati. When this has been established, Anyada Shrunu. Now Anyada at other times, Shrunu may now listen. Itah param Anyada Jagran avasthayamapi एव ब्रह्मानंद अवगमोपायः वक्ष्यते Tam Shrunu. Now may you listen as to how the upaya, or the method of Brahmananda Avagama, how the method of obtaining Brahmananda or attaining Brahmananda even in the state of waking, that upaya, the method that is now being stated, and may you listen to it carefully. However, before immediately proceeding to give the method, the author finds it necessary to create a certain background. Pratignatameva Brahmanandagamopayam darshayidum, that he has already made a pratigna, proposition, that I am now going to show you the method of attaining that Brahmananda. Tat upodhatatvena, as an introduction to that statement, or introduction to his showing the method for attainment of Brahmananda, sanimittam jivasya avasthadva praptam darshayati. First of all, the author wants to show what is this waking state. Although all of this has been stated in the earlier chapters, but here again wants to bring to our mind, with reference to the discussion which has been carried out in this chapter, the author again tells us what is these states other than the deep sleep state. What is waking state and what is dream state. In short, that waking state also is being just explained here to remind us, to refresh our memory, because with reference to the waking state, the author is going to say how the Brahmananda can be attained. So, jivasya avasthadva praptam darshayati. How the jiva, the individual, attains these two avastha, the two states of dream and waking. That is being said in verse 90. Ya anandamayas suptau, ya anandamayas suptau, savijnanamayatmatam, savijnanamayatmatam, gatva swapnam prabodham va, gatva swapnam prabodham va, prapnoti sthana bhedatah, prapnoti sthana bhedatah. Yah suptau anandamaya. Now, going back to the state of deep sleep, as I said, the ego there has merged into ignorance, and therefore there is no distinct sense of ego in the or individuality in the state of deep sleep. At that time we said that ego is eki bhutaha. In the waking and dream states, this ego assumes variety of roles, moment to moment, depending upon the situation. So he keeps on assuming different roles. All those roles are lumped into one, eki bhutaha. And that, and since there is no obstacle in the form of any unhappiness or any duality or any struggle or conflict, therefore, in the state of deep sleep, what obtains is ananda, or the self-effulgent natural happiness of the self. And so, the self obtaining in the state of deep sleep, which is where the ahankara, the ego, is in the causal state, he is called prajna or anandamaya, meaning one who is essentially of the nature of ananda. Yah suptau anandamaya, the one who in the state of deep sleep. So shuptikale virinavastha anandamaya shabdena kathyadeti. So thus in the state of deep sleep, where the ego has completely merged into ignorance, one who is called anandamaya. Maya, ananda, ananda means happiness. Anandamaya, one is of the nature of happiness or essentially happiness. Saha vijnana mayatmatam gatva. Now as he wakes up, let us say that he wakes up, half wakes up, which is what we call the state of dream. And what happens to the deep sleeper who was in the state of deep sleep and identified with the causal state, now gets identified with what we call the subtle body, because the mind is manifested partially and the ego identifying with that mind is called vijnanamaya, meaning the one identified with vijnana or identified with the intellect. And when he further wakes up, when the mind completely wakes up, that is what we call the state of deep sleep, state of waking, and then the ego is called waker. So vijnana shabdabhide buddhyadupadimatvena vijnanamayatam prapya. So in short, when he wakes up, he gets identified with vijnana, meaning the buddhi or the intellect, and therefore that jiva is called Vijnanamaya. And depending upon sthana, depending upon which place he is in, whether he is half awake, in which case he will be called dreamer, or is fully awake, in which case he will be called awaka. Sthana bhedatah vakshamana sthana vishesha yogena swapnam jagaranam va karmanusarena gacchati. Depending upon the karma, he either wakes up or he is in the dream. As we said earlier a number of times, that the experience of dream is also due to the result of certain actions. The experience of waking also is due to the result of certain actions. Experience of deep sleep also is due to the result of certain actions. That's how, inasmuch as nothing can happen without a reason, we say that the reason for all these various experiences is the past karma. And in accordance with the past karma, he either becomes a waker or a dreamer or whatever. In next verse tells us again, just to remind us. It is said in the Shastra that the jiva has a certain place, a sthanam. So the soul is said to be in the right eye in the waking state, as this verse will say, the throat in the dream state, and the heart in the deep sleep state. This is what the soul means the mind. So has all the energy, let us say, or the mind gets focused in the right eye, in the waking state, in the throat, in the dream state, in the heart and the deep sleep state. So in order to understand the states like waking, dream, so in order to understand those states, the sthana or the place in which the jiva primarily obtains in these states is, the sthanas are also stated in the verse 91. Netre jagaranam kanthe, netre jagaranam kanthe, swapnas suptir hrudambuje, swapnas suptir hrudambuje, आपादमस्तकं देहम् आपादमस्तकं देहम् व्याप्य जागर्ति चेतनः व्याप्य जागर्ति. Netre jagaranam, idea is that when this jiva is in the place which is what we call netra or the eyes, particularly the right eye, then that is a state of waking. So jiva, the atma, the self, identified with buddhi or the vijnana, is called vijnanamaya, and depending upon whether he takes his place in the eye, in which case he will be the waker, or takes his place in the kanthe swapna, in the throat, in which case he will be called a dreamer. So this is what is said. In the waking state, the soul or the atma means the jiva, is in the eye or the right eye. In the dream state, he is in the throat. Suptihi hrudambuje. Hrud means the heart. Ambuja means the lotus. Hrudambuja means the lotus of the heart. Suptihi, in the state of deep sleep, the jiva is said to be in the lotus of the heart. But why do you say that in the waking state this jiva is only in the right eye? So the author in the next line says that the word netra of the right eye should rather be understood as a whole body rather than saying that the waking consciousness is mainly confined to the right eye. In fact, the waking consciousness obtains in the whole body. So eye, there's EYE, stands for all the sense organs. And therefore, since all the sense organs are pervading the whole body, therefore we say that, like the sense of touch, so therefore we say that in the state of waking, the jiva or the conscious being obtains in the entire body. Therefore the netra shabdasya krishna deho palakshana partam abhipretya netre jagaranati amshasya arthamaha, that the word netra of the eye should be krishna deho palakshana partam, that the word stands for the entire body. Iti abhipretya, with that abhipraya or with that opinion, netre jagaranam iti amshasya arthamaha. In the first line, the expression netre jagaranam, that the waking state is in the netra or in the eye, that part is explained in the second line. Apada mastakam deham vyapya jagarti chetana. Chetana means jiva. This jiva or this individual being. Apada mastakam deham vyapya. Pada means the foot. Mastaka means the head. Apada mastaka, from foot to the head. From toe to the tip, So that is how it is said. Beginning from toe, right up to the head. Meaning in the entire body, the jiva, the conscious being, pervades the entire body and obtains in what we call the waking state. So what happens when the conscious being pervades the entire body? Deham vyapya ityanena vivakshidamartham drushtanta pradarsanena spashtayati. So the author in the verse 92 explains, but with an illustration as to what is the nature of this state of waking where the jiva, the conscious being, pervades the entire body. What exactly the meaning of that is explained in the verse 92 with an illustration. So the verse 92 says, Dehatadaatmyamapannah Dehatadaatmyamapannah Taptayah pindavattataha Taptayah pindavattataha Aham manushya ityevam Nischityaivavatishtade Dehatadaatmyam apannah. Thus one who is in the state of pervading the entire body. The example is taptayah pindavata. The standard example, like a red hot iron ball. So how the iron pervades every atom or every grain of that, how the fire pervades every grain of iron. So this is the example of pervasiveness. This example of the fireball. Whether is an example of pervasiveness as to how fire pervades every part, every grain of iron. And similarly also, the Chetana, the conscious being, pervades every cell of this body, the entire body, he pervades. That's the reason why we have sensations. One may not be aware that my presence is in the entire body, but we have sensations in different parts of the body. If somebody touches me, let's say, taps me on my head, or I happen to step on a cigarette butt, burning cigarette butt or something, then immediately by reflex action we know that the sensation of touch or whatever, the nervous system immediately informs us. Thus it is evident that during the waking state, our consciousness pervades the entire body. Not from the deep sleep state. In the deep sleep state, even, like the mosquitoes are there and mosquitoes are biting, we don't know. Only when we wake up, with all these red spots all over the hand or over the body, then we realize that the mosquito must have bitten me in the state of deep sleep, but that sensation is not there in the deep sleep. Therefore it is said that in the deep sleep, as though the consciousness does not pervade the entire, it's primarily concentrated in what we call the heart, and in the waking state, it pervades the entire body. So what happens? Tatra pramanamaha. How do you say that in the waking state the consciousness pervades the entire body? How do you say that? So pramanamaha, the proof is given here. Tataha, or evidence I should say. Tataha aham manushya ityevam nischityeva avatishtade. Tataha, therefore, yataha manushyatvadijatimatadehena tadatmam praptaha. Since the conscious being has gained an identification of the body, and being manushya meaning being man or woman or human, etc. So these are the attributes of the human, of this body. And that's the reason why aham manushya. This person also has the identification of the notion, I am human being. Aham manushya. I am a human being. I am a man. I am a woman. I am so and so. So we proclaim ourselves in this way. That shows that there is identification with the body. Because human being or man or woman, all of these are attributes of the body. And I say that I am a woman or I am a man or I am a human being, that shows that there is an identification with the body. So this notion or the proclamation on my part that I am so and so itself declares this phenomenon of what we call the identification with the body. Yatah manushyatvadi jatimata dehena tadatmam praptah. I was listening to the cassette, on this stress management, and Swamiji was dwelling upon this point. Says, I am black and beautiful, So this is notion. Black, why do you have to say I am black and beautiful? So when you say I am black, what does it mean? There is only identification with the pigment. What is black is nothing but pigment. And therefore, when someone says I am black, that means that there is an identification with the pigment. That's all. And so that shows a problem. The idea is that shows a problem. A problem in terms of this confusion about the self. Similarly, when someone says I am white, also similar, or black or brown or whatever it is. But all of these expressions only show an identification with something. So I am white, I am black, I am brown. Tremendous identification with the color or the pigment of the skin. And that's what brings about this statement. That shows the phenomenon of identification. Aham manushya evam, that's the reason why tatah aham manushya iti evam nischitya. That's the reason why this person is certain. I am a human being. I am a man. I am white. I am black. I am brown. I am tall. I am short. There is no doubt at all. Samshayadi rahita jnanena nischitya. This is what we call nischitam jnanam, the ascertained knowledge. Free of any doubt or free of any vagueness. There is no doubt that I am so and so. That I am tall, I am short, I am fair, I am whatever, dark, I am lean, I am fat, I am father, I am mother, whatever. There is no doubt at all in this notion that I have. That's why it is called nischitam jnanam. Nischitam jnanam means a conviction is there, firm conviction is there in me that I am such and such, where such and such are nothing but the attributes of the body. That shows that is the total identification with the body. And that's why Kaivalya Upanishad says, Saeva Maya Parimohidatma Shariramasthaye Karoti Nityam. On account of Maya or ignorance, this person gets totally identified with the body. Striyannapana vichitra bhogaihi Saeva Jagrat Parithruptimedi. And thus, identified with the body, there are naturally the desires in the body, hunger and thirst and various other things, and thus he keeps on experiencing those objects in the waking state. Anyway, again, these things are by the way. This is not the main topic here, so we don't have to spend too much time on this. But the idea is that these verses are given here as an introduction to what the author really wants to say. He is leading us to what he actually, the point that he wants to make. But this is style. You don't right away tell them, because the orientation is not there. So from where we are, the author leads us to what he wants to say, so that slowly and slowly the mind gets oriented to what is going to be stated. And that orientation continues. Deha tadatma abhimana hetukani avasthantarani darshayati. Now comes here. That other avasthas, other states of the mind, or other notions rather that one entertains, which notions also arise on account of identification of the body. And when we say there is identification of the body, we should also understand there is identification with sense organs, identification of the mind. Because identification in the body is possible only when this total identification is there. Because body is functioning and conscious only because of sense organs. And sense organs are functioning because of the mind. And therefore, only when there is an identification with all these aspects of the personality, then is it possible to have identification of the body. In the dream state, for example, there is identification with only one part of the mind. At that time, there is no identification with the body. In waking state, there is identification with the total personality. And therefore, on account of that identification, various other notions that one entertains, some of these notions are stated in the next verse, which understanding is useful and necessary in order to understand what the author is going to say. Avasthantarani darshayati shows the other avasthas or other states of this jiva in the verse 93. Udasina sukhi dukhi Udasina sukhi dukhi Ityavasthatrayamethyaso Ityavasthatrayamethyaso Sukha dukhe karma karye Sukha dukhe karma karye Tvaudaasinyam svabhavatah Tvaudaasinyam svabhavatah Udasinah Sukhi Dukhi Avasthatrayam Edi Asau. Asau means this fellow, this jiva. Avasthatrayam Eti. Various states are there in the waking state. Like I am a doer, I am an enjoyer, so various kind of notions arise on account of identification of the mind. But here three notions are stated which are useful for the matter under discussion. That this jiva, on account of identification of the body and the mind, attains the states. Sukhi. Sukhi means what? I am happy. Dukhi. I am unhappy. Udasinaha. Neither happy nor unhappy. These three states are there. Meaning the state that obtains between the happy and unhappy. So, state of tranquility that obtains when mind is neither, because happy is an excitement, unhappy is another excitement, understand? When I am happy, when I am excited, when something happened, that I consider to be something very desirable for me, then I get excited, and the state that obtains is called sukhi or happy. By the same token, when something happens which I consider as undesirable, then there is an opposite kind of an excitement, which is what we call dukhi or unhappy. So this sukhitvam and dukhitvam, happiness and unhappiness, as we generally call them, are nothing but excitements. Which excitement comes on account of the contact that the sense objects gain with something outside. Okay. And a state without this excitement, not really a state of dullness, but hereby the third state that is talking about is a state that obtains without this excitement. It's called udasina. Udasina, call it detachment. Call it indifferent, well, udasina. Udasina is uninvolved. That's what really what udasina means. In Sanskrit, ud asina. As means to sit. Asinaha, one who is seated. Ud asinaha, one who is seated above. The idea is when things are happening, one remains uninvolved, then one sits above them. That's how we say udasinaha. Suppose two people are conversing, some kind of a transaction or interaction is going on with them, and this person is seated here without participating in that, this is called udasinaha. Na kasyachit paksham bhajate. One who does not take any part, does not participate, or who does not get identified with any side. If the two persons are there, having some kind of a conflict, the third person who does not identify with either of them is called udasinaha. So you can say udasina is a state of detachment, state of unattachment. Inasmuch as sukhitvam, or what we call the happiness, is also an excitement that arises on account of some attachment. And that's why I am happy. Or dukhitvam, the other kind of an excitement, the opposite excitement arises on account of also attachment, means aversion to something, which is another form of attachment. So attachment and aversions create what we call happiness and unhappiness. When my attachment is satisfied, I am happy. When something happens which excites my aversion, I am unhappy. So udasina then would have to be stated as a state which obtains when the mind is free from the influence of attachment and aversion. That's why we call it a state of detachment, of vairagya. Not a state of dullness, but a state of detachment, free from the excitements of raga and dvesha. This is what is called here udasina. Thus asau, this jiva, this fellow attains these three states: happy, unhappy, or detached. And by the way, also the author says, why is he happy? Why is he unhappy? What causes happiness? What causes happiness? He says, Sukha dukkhe karma karye. Both sukha and dukkha are result of karma, result of the past action. This is so. I feel happy. There must be a reason for it. Oh, something happened that is desirable to me. There also must be a reason for it. What's the reason? According to this karma. Some good action that must have been performed, which fructifies at this moment, gives rise to an experience, gives rise to a situation, which is what we call conducive or agreeable, and that creates in me this experience of happiness. Dukkha or pain or unhappiness also is similarly considered to be the result of some other kind of a karma. So some other kind of perhaps karma I must have performed, which brings about a situation of which is disagreeable. And thus the reaction that arises in me is called dukkha or unhappiness. So that also is the result of karma. And therefore, that I am sukhi, I find myself happy is because of what? Because of karma. I find myself unhappy also because of what? Karma. That's the reason why, if you want to be happy, do good karma, that's all. Inasmuch as happiness is not, at least according to Vedanta, happiness is not the result of any external situation. Not because I met a friend, and not because I watched a movie, not because something happened that I am happy. They will say that you are happy only because some good karma has fructified. And not that I am unhappy again because something did happen or did not happen. Unhappiness also is because some other karma has fructified. So what is the key to be happiness? Do good karma, that's all. Punya karma. Perform actions which can be classified as meritorious actions or virtuous actions. Action of worship, action of service, whatever you call it. So it is those actions really which are the reason for happiness. That's the reason why a person can be happy without any apparent, any great possessions or without what we call the conventional causes of happiness. Also, a person can be happy because happiness does not come from those paraphernalia. Those paraphernalia can become perhaps a means, but become an occasion for the manifestation of my karma and to give me an experience of happiness. And some other paraphernalia can become the cause again for triggering some other karma and can give me an experience of unhappiness. But the idea is happiness and unhappiness both are said to be the results of the karma, which is also not a very important point here, but that's why they were mentioned here. So that if I find myself happy or unhappy, that being happy or being unhappy also is the result of karma. Tatra sukhitva dukkhitvayoho karma janyatva jnanaya. That sukhitvam, the state of being happy, dukkhitvam, the state of being unhappy, both of them are born of the karma of action. In order to enable us to see this fact, visheshana bhutayoho sukha dukkhayoho tadhetukatvam darshayati. In the second line, the author shows how the state of mind that is called happiness and state of mind that is called unhappiness, that is result of the karma. So sukha dukkhe karma karye. The sukha and the dukkha, both of them are the result of karma. But how about the detachment? He says, audasinyam tu svabhavataha. However, the state of detachment is svabhavataha, is something that is natural. It's something that is the nature of the self. The idea is that self is unattached. It's simply the witness who illumines everything. So there is an agreeable experience. So, as it is said here, that in every experience there are two elements, what is experienced and the experiencer. Generally speaking, we can say that what is experienced keeps on changing, whereas the experiencer remains essentially the same. I, the experiencer, is one, and what I experience keeps on changing. But then, when we look at the experiencer, we find that even though the experiencer is one alone, what is experienced is many, and experiencer is one, but even this one experiencer also keeps on changing. Now happy, then unhappy, now seer, now hearer, now thinker, now whatever. So what we call the experience of the ego also constantly changes. And therefore, in this ego also there are two elements. One is the changing element, other is the changeless element. What is the changing element? Changing element is this notion, happy, unhappy, etc. But all these notions are illumined by whom? All the notions are illumined by the self, by what we call the Sakshi, the witness, the illuminator. So witness is the illuminator who illumines the objects that are being experienced as well as even the experience of the ego. Both of these are illumined by the consciousness or the Sakshi, the witness. And therefore it is uninvolved. Just as the light is uninvolved. Light illumines this flower. Light illumines this picture. Light illumines my book. Light illumines my body. The light illumines all these various objects. It illumines an object that is blue, something that is white, something that is red. In spite of illumining these different colors, the light does not assume any color at all. Light just illumines what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. There is no partiality, no, it's an indifference or detachment. Excellent illustration here is light. If something good happens, light illumines that also. Something bad happens, light illumines that also. There's a good person, light illumines that also. Inner thing, light illumines that also. It is not that light is more or less or brighter or dull because of the object that is illumined. That's how, in spite of illumining everything, the light remains detached, uninvolved. And so also Atma is uninvolved or completely detached. And therefore, whenever the mind is free from any excitement, in the sense that when it is free from the reaction of raga and the dvesha, then mind is tranquil. At that time, the state that obtains of the mind is called udasinata, a state of detachment. Svabhavataha, and that really reflects the nature of the self. So, that's what, that tranquility or detachment is something that is natural. That's nice to know, isn't it? The reactions are not natural to the mind. Or sadness, etc., is not nature of the mind, even though we may experience that. And that may be the predominant experience also. That experience of tranquility or detachment may be only now and then. And predominantly what we experience is one or the other reaction or excitement taking place in the mind. And therefore we tend to believe that that is really how the mind is, but no. It is audasinyam, it is a tranquility. It is a detachment. It is ultimately what it leads to, the completeness. That is really the state of the self. And that is also the state of mind. Even mind also by nature, not state of mind, the nature of mind. The mind by nature is pure and tranquil and serene. So whatever disturbance or distractions or agitations we find in the mind are actually, they are only incidental. They are not the nature of the mind. The nature of water is coolness. If you find the water is hot, that heat is not the nature of the water. On account of water coming in contact with fire, that only incidentally it seems to have acquired that heat. And left to itself, that heat will go away and water will discard that heat and water will again attain its own nature. And similarly also, left to itself, the mind will be tranquil. So all we have to do is to become natural, that's all. That's what Vedanta teaches us. Just become natural. In fact, what we are in terms of being an ego, being happy, being unhappy, all of these are unnatural states. They're not natural states. Natural state is the state of tranquility. Is it dullness? It's not dullness. It is what we call the cheerfulness, prasadaha or prasannata. So that is the nature. Dullness is not the nature of mind. Indifference, udasinata or detachment is not to be understood as dullness. It is to be understood as sattva, inasmuch as raga and the dvesha. So raga shows rajas, dvesha shows tamas. And when rajas and tamas both are not there, what obtains is sattva. So sattva or the tranquility or the transparency is really the state of, that is the nature of the mind. And that also obtains sometime when the reactions of what we call the raga dvesha is not there. When the mind becomes sattvic, then what is experienced is what we call detachment or tranquility, and that is the nature of the mind. Again, while on the subject, the author takes time to enlighten us or to teach us the various other related things also. And therefore, while talking about this happiness and unhappiness, in the verse 94, the author also tells us a little further classification of happiness and unhappiness. Tayoscha sukha-dukkhayoho nimitta bhedad dvaividhyam aha. That both the sukha and the dukkha, nimitta bhedad, on account of the cause, dvaividhyam, that even the happiness can also be classified as twofold, unhappiness can also be classified as twofold, depending upon nimitta or the cause. What causes happiness? According to that, it can be classified in two categories. And what are they? That is being said in the verse 94. Bahyabhogan manorajyad, Bahyabhogan manorajyad, Sukha dukkhe dvidhamate, Sukha dukkhe dvidhamate, Sukha dukkhantaraleshu, Sukha dukkhantaraleshu, Bhavet tushnim avasthitihi, Bhavet tushnim avasthitihi. Bahya bhogat manorajyat sukha dukkhe dvidhamate. Sukha dukkhe, the happiness and unhappiness, dvidhamate, are said to be of two kinds. How? One is, because why? What are the reasons for the two kinds? Because of what causes that sukha dukkha. Bahya bhogat, one cause of happiness can be some experience with an external object. The object should also include person. Object includes everything, as I said, other than myself. And therefore, either the happiness can be caused by something outside, or unhappiness can also be caused by something outside. And that's why we say that happiness born as a result of cause which is external to me, that is one kind of happiness or unhappiness. And manorajya, one can feel happy also because of the manorajya. Manorajya is what? Is nothing but that the play of the mind. So sometimes the mind goes in its reveries, the mind goes in its own imaginations and imagines something nice and then feels happy. Or sometimes the same mind imagines something bad and feels unhappy. So some mind can imagine that, oh, wonderful things will happen now, such and such thing will happen, and then I'll get this, then I have now $100 with me, I invest them in the bank, or I'll invest that in this given stock, and that will turn to $200, and then I'll invest that further, that will become $400, then I'll do this, then I'll do that, then I'll do this, and thus one looks and sees oneself as a very rich person and with all kinds of things and feels happy. So this kind of a situation, this is called manorajya. Manorajya means the kingdom that is created from the mind. Sometimes manorasa, from the chariot of the mind. So the mind also, imagination of the mind also becomes often the cause of happiness. You imagine yourself in the company of someone whom you love and makes you happy. Or an object that you love makes you happy. And so that's how the mind also sometimes do. In the dream also, very often. The happiness that we experience in the dream is purely due to the creation of the mind. So that also can be called the happiness created due to an internal cause. And the happiness that I experience because something good is happening outside or desirable to me, that will be called happiness. By external as well as internal reason. That's all. Why is he saying all these things to us? So that we can recognize that udasina avastha, The state that obtains when both these kinds of happiness and unhappiness are not there, both of them have become quiet, then in that quiet or tranquil state of mind what obtains is called udasinata or detachment. Sukha dukkhantaraleshu tarhi audasinyam kada syad. When is it that audasinyam or the detachment happens? When? So the second line says, Sukha dukkhantaraleshu. Antarala. Antarala means intermediate state. Sukha dukkha antaraleshu. In a state that obtains in between the experiences of happiness and unhappiness. The state that obtains which can be characterized neither as happy nor as unhappy. That is what we call the state of detachment. Bhavet tushrim. Then one is tranquil. One is quiet. Bhavet tushrim avasthitihi. So when the mind is neither in the influence of rajas and therefore happy, or the influence of tamas or unhappy, when the mind becomes sattvic, that is what we call udasinata tushrim sthitihi, a state of tranquility or a state of quietude. Yadartham jagradadi upanyastam tadidanim darshayati. Now shows. So the reason why in the last 6 verses all this was talked about, what is the reason why this state of waking and the place and the experience and happy and unhappy and detached, and the reason why all this was discussed, that is now the purpose for which all of this was discussed, that is now being said in the verse 95. न कापि चिंता में स्त्यद्य न कापि चिंता में स्त्यद्य सुखमासैति ब्रुवन् सुखमासैति ब्रुवन् औदासीन्ये निजानन्द औदासीन्ये निजानन्द भानं वक्त्यखिलो जनः भानं वक्त्यखिलो जनः. न कापि चिंता में अस्ति अद्य सुखम आसे इति ब्रुवन् औदासीन्ये निजानंद भानम वक्ति अखिलो जनः. The last word akhilo janah. Janah means a person. Akhilo janah, all the people. Meaning everybody has an experience of this. Sometimes. So there are moments when everyone experiences the state of what we call detachment. Sarvopi janah. This is the experience of all the people. And so saying that's why actually the author wants to show that there should not be any kind of a question or any doubt with reference to this state of audasinyam or state of detachment, because it is the experience of everyone, sometime, now or then, now and then. Sarvopi janah, everyone. Idanim mama kapi chinta krihari vishaya nasti. Sometimes a person says, na kapi chinta mamasti. I don't have any worries at all. No worries, no anxieties. Gruhadi vishaya. Sometimes person is worried about the house. You know, when you're away from the house, you may be concerned about the house, if everything is okay. Or worried about something that is to be done, accomplished in the evening. Or variety of these things are there on the head, you know. They are these kind of burdens or these loads are there. And that's why chinta or anxieties are there in the mind. But sometimes we feel a state of mind when there is no worry at all, no anxiety. I'm not worried about anything. What will happen tomorrow? My mind doesn't seem to bother. How about yesterday? Doesn't bother. How about now? Doesn't bother. So sometimes everybody says that I have no worry at all, no anxiety at all. Then, sukhamase, how do we feel? I'm happy. See, this happiness is not generated because of an external experience. Otherwise it would be a reaction. So when he says I'm happy, that happiness is nothing but what we call the tranquility of the mind. Ultimately happiness comes from the self. But when the mind becomes tranquil, it is not a happiness that is caused by anything. It is a happiness that is the nature of the self. So he says, Sukhamase, Ataha, Sukham yatha bhavati, Tadatishtamiti vadan, sitting in the lazy boy, sitting someplace, sitting on the seashore, sitting and then just experiencing a tranquility. Because momentarily, mind has become free from all the anxieties, worries, complexes and whatever, and one experiences that state of tranquility. Ataha sukham yatha bhavati tadatishta. How are you doing? I'm fine. I remain here, tranquil and happy. If he's thinking something of some nice thing that is going to happen tomorrow, then the happiness that comes is caused happiness. Oh, tomorrow, Swamiji, tomorrow is going to inauguration, I'm going to inaugurate it as the President of the United States. But that, the happiness that comes is again due to manorajya, due to this thinking in the mind. Or actually, the inauguration happens and tremendous excitement is there, happiness is there, also caused by some external cause. But when happiness is not caused by any inner cause or any external cause, and still the happiness is, that is what we mean by tranquility or detachment, which is the nature of the self and the nature of the mind. That audasinya kale swarupananda spurtim brute. At that time, at the time of audasinyam, at the time of this tranquility or detachment, he says, what kind of happiness is he feeling? The happiness that is just welling up from the swarupa, meaning welling up from his own self. Not due to cause, not due to a cause other than himself. Just as a wise man, about him it is said, Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha. He is happy by himself, with himself, without any cause. So that is really the wise man. Wise man, anybody who has become mature or grown, understand that there is a problem here. Swamiji, you mean wise man experiences happiness all the time? I never heard this word experience so far. I thought wise man has wisdom. Well, all we say is wise man is happy. Whether you call it experience of happiness or knowledge of happiness, because it is the self which is happiness. But then what does he do in order to be happy? Nothing he does. Understand that happiness is the nature of self. And all that has happened in case of a wise man is that whatever obstacles are there for the manifestation of that happiness, those obstacles are just removed. And various obstacles are there. Raga, dvesha, all these different obstacles are there. Worries, anxieties, and all kinds of things may be there. Swami, all kinds of things are inside. Childhood stuff and all that. All these are obstacles. And when they arise in our mind, naturally they thwart or they stifle the natural happiness which is there. So when all this thing has been worked out on account of the knowledge itself. So what we are learning here, that it is the self is full or complete. And that there is no other reason really why there should be any unhappiness or any sadness at all, other than that my mind projects something. And as this thing goes home, as we understand this, and we are able to resolve the things that are there within ourselves in terms of obstacles, as these obstacles are resolved, as the various knots are resolved, vidyate hridaya grantihi, in the light of the knowledge or understanding, as my various complexes and the knots that are there, as they get resolved, the obstacles to happiness also get resolved, and therefore happiness, which is the nature of the self, that just becomes evident. It's not that it becomes created. Call it manifest, let us call it evident. This becomes evident. And since it is self-evident, self-shining, self-existing, therefore no effort is required to remain happy. Swamiji often says, no effort is really required to be silent. Effort is required to become disturbed. Silence really doesn't require any effort. And similarly, tranquility doesn't require any effort. But agitation requires effort. Anxiety requires effort. Anger requires effort. Fear requires effort. Effort meaning some kind of working in the mind is required for these things to arise. And so, either I may deliberately do something, or habitually the mind may have certain thinking patterns by which it gets agitated, it gets in conflict, it becomes fearful, and what it is, all of these are unnatural things. All these are created on account of, we would say, ignorance and the products of ignorance. All of these things are unnatural states which are created, which are very natural today because that's all there seems to be basically. But still, that is not the nature of the mind. And therefore, when these kind of things don't happen, when the mind itself by its own projections doesn't create these things, then what obtains is nothing but, even if you do not have the knowledge, then also a person can be happy. If the mind is pure, the person is happy. Except the difference is, the wise man knows the happiness I am, and therefore there is even that obstacle of ignorance also goes away. But you find many people who are happy. Somebody was telling me recently, he says, Swamiji, I find what's the need for studying Vedanta? I find many people happy without having studied Vedanta. Why do you study this? After studying Vedanta also I find many people still not happy. Now what's the use of this? I said, it is the happiness that you find in some people is perhaps they possess it, in the sense that maybe they are endowed with some punya karma, therefore they are happy, or maybe they have brought with them with certain maybe tranquility of the mind or purity of the mind on account of the past. But that is not the reason why one should not, if that person studies Vedanta, he will be better than what he is. If the person has not studied Vedanta, he would have been worse than what he is. And so the study and understanding naturally dissolves as the things get resolved. That's why we say that it's a continuous process of resolving, of understanding, of growing. And what is meant by resolving or growing is just removing those obstacles which stifle the happiness, or which is the nature of the self. That's the reason why you find again and again in Vedantic texts a certain amount of, what shall I say, all the time we are being told to avoid the happiness arising from sense objects. Why is it so? Because even that also is a happiness that is just a projection of the mind. Because mind assigns or mind imparts certain value to the sense object and then feels happy. So even that also becomes an obstacle to the owning up of the happiness which is one's own nature. And that's the reason why there is an advice to become detached. Not because there is something wrong somewhere, but because that is a state of mind which is conducive to the manifestation or the, of the happiness which is the nature of the self. So says here the Tikakara, Avadasinye kale Swarup. That's what the author says. Avadasinye Nijananda Bhanam Vakti Akhilo Janaha. All the people say, whenever they do experience, Avadasinye, whenever there obtains a state of mind which is what we call the detachment, with what we call the tranquil or transparent, Nijananda Bhanam. Everybody says that there is no reason why I am happy. I am happy for no reason. That means it's Nijananda, the Ananda or the happiness of the self. This is what everyone says. So, Audasinya Kale Swarupananda Sfurtim Brute. That in the state of detachment, everybody says that there is Sfurti, or there is this manifestation of Swarupa Ananda, the Ananda which is the Swarupa, the nature of the self. And so, what do we understand? Ataha Jagrana Avasthayam api Nijananda Bhanamasti iti avagantavyam iti abhipraya. Ataha, therefore, Jagrana Avasthayam api, even in the state of Jagrana, meaning the waking also, Nijananda Bhanamasti, that there is Bhanam, or there is this awareness, call it experience here, there is this awareness or experience of Nijananda, of the Ananda of the self. Iti avagantavyam, thus one should know, it is not that the Nijananda or the Ananda of the self obtains only in the deep sleep state, it also now and then experience in the waking state also, when the mind is free from the reactions of raga and the dvesha, when the mind is sattvic, when the mind is tranquil. Okay, we'll continue the discussion tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.